with it. We have some established programs that I'm very proud of and I'm comfortable with, but we always have an open mind for potentially getting more.
How does your program, do you all use or utilize volunteers in any level of?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that. Yes, we do. We have volunteers for our diversions and for our arbitration program. In fact, I think we had a volunteer that retired recently that done over 20 years.
Oh, goodness.
A volunteer service. We're always looking for more. Any of you folks out there that are interested, you can go to our website. I think it's sao7.org. You can pull down an employment application. You have to fill one out, pass a background, but we're always looking for help, especially now when we're underpaid and we're short on staff. Absolutely.
Now, how many volunteers do you have?
Oh gosh, Glenn, you have to ask me that. I don't know. No, we do not have thousands.
Hundreds?
I would say less than 100, even spread out over the circuit. They could now, if you count interns that are from the universities and colleges and high schools that are working, maybe 100 plus. But purely volunteers would be less than 100, I would think.
Yeah.
But I'm going to find out now that you asked me, and I don't know that answer. I'm going to find out.
Hey, I like that. I like
Yes,
that. I actually used to participate in the arbitration program. I really and truly like what I hear you saying in terms of the programs that are available for you. Really all the programs that are there, because you know, once these kids, and I know you would agree with this, once they get into the system, it's very, very hard to get them out of the system.
It's hard. In juveniles, the interesting thing, statistic is about 10% of your juvenile offenders commit 90% of the crime. You get most of the kids come in, they get out. They do one stint, they get in it, they say, man, I've learned my lesson, they're going. But you got that 10% that they keep coming back. And then ultimately, you know, they graduate to the adult system. And that's absolutely what we don't want to happen. I've always said, Gwen, I'd rather prevent crime than prosecute it. We prosecute crime, we're good at it, we know how to do it, but prevention is something that we're trying to develop more and more programs for throughout the circuit. Weed and seed program's great, but funding's getting low for that. But community involvement, Gwen, getting the communities, especially the communities that have the higher rate of criminal activity, to get them invested in doing something. That's important.
And do you find the parents are involved, or are they required to be involved?
In the juvenile system, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. They have to be. They have to participate, and if they don't, you know, then there's potential consequences for that for them and their children. But it's also a flag. If we've got parents who aren't getting the kids to their arbitration meetings, or aren't getting them to crime and consequences class or to community service work or to their drug testing or whatever, then you know, we don't want to punish the kids for the parents' transgressions. But it's a flag where maybe we need to get some additional intervention going on.
Now, in terms of crime, because I know, okay, you ran for office, you're in office now, and I will mention everybody, you are running again.
Yes, ma'am.
But have you seen or heard, even in, because I'm sure there are meetings you go to and contacts whereby you're able to actually hear crime stats and the like. And we hear that crime's going down in certain areas, going up in others. Overall, for our own comfort, I guess, or sense of comfort, what's actually happening in terms of crime? And you know, I know you might say, okay, talk to police chiefs, but you guys actually end up eventually getting them.
Right, right. I can tell you what the extent of what I know. Violent crime and crime in general, statistically, is going down. Domestic violence, and we just had another domestic violence murder recently. Wasn't it Seminole County, or I think it was Seminole or Brevard, but the woman was from Deltona. And this was an issue where there was an injunction. This was an ongoing problem between husband and wife. She was a surgical nurse, I believe, if I remember correctly. And how many, there's been so many tragedies like that, murder-suicides, children being murdered. So, and then just the domestic violence incidents of that have gone up. But crime is going down, violent crime is going down, those crimes are going up, and people ask, well, why? Well, part of it could be education. Part of it could be that the programs in the schools, etc., are starting to make some impact. It could be that only the good Lord knows why that is. Maybe it's the hand of the good Lord reaching down and touching people. I don't know. But I'm grateful for the decline, but I'm also cautious that it could change. And I'm a firm believer that we need to be ever diligent and vigilant in our quest to educate folks, to preach against crime, and to help people. We've got to create an environment, too, where people can prosper and feel hope. You know, if hope is gone, and what takes its place is hatred and despair, then we got problems.
And speaking of hatred, despair, in terms of crimes, you know, that have to do with the racial or, you know, those kinds of crimes where it's based on certain types of hatred. Do you see them going up, or have you guys, has it kind of settled in, kind of bottomed out, or and what do you call that? I mean, when it's a crime, and then if it's got a
you can enhance it. You can enhance it. That's what they call it. There's a statute regarding hate crimes. We prosecuted one. Not. I'm trying to remember exactly. Might have been Dennis Craig before he became judge.
He talked about
that was a case where I believe it had to do with a car. It might have been like a vehicle where someone was struck. Was pretty broad.
I think the guy was on a bicycle or something.
Right. It was a brutal and violent crime. I don't see, and I'd have to look at the stats to give you exact numbers. I'm not aware of what I would consider an extremely large number of those crimes being charged. Does that mean they're not happening? I won't say that they're not. I won't say that they will. It's clear to me that when the circumstance presents itself, and it's clear that somebody has committed a crime because of race, religious background, gender, those kind of things, that we look at the enhancement statute. Sometimes we use it, sometimes we threaten it and get a plea to a prison sentence or what we think is appropriate. But it's disturbing any time the motivation to be violent or to take advantage or exploit someone financially, psychologically, emotionally, is the motivation is because of the color of somebody's skin, or if they're a woman, or if they're Asian, or if because of their ethnicity. And I believe, call me maybe naive a little bit, but I'd like to think, Gwen, that we are learning as a people to be more tolerant and to understand that you can disagree about music, or you can disagree about cultures, you can disagree about points of view, and still accept people as good people, as valuable people, and not react with hostility. And I think we still got a ways to go. And I can tell you that if we see a case that warrants prosecuting with the enhanced hate crime statute, then we do it. We do it.
Daytona Beach Commission is moving forward, as are other cities, in terms of the sexual offender, sexual predator legislation.
Yeah, I read it. That was in the paper today, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes. What is your, because you've been in law enforcement, you know, I mean, in a level of probably more so prosecuting and the like, there is this feeling about whether or not those individuals can be rehabbed or not. You've had an opportunity, I'm sure, in some of these cities, in your various counties, where they do have legislation like that in place. Have you found it to ever come to your level, or does it pretty much, I mean, in terms of any kind of prosecution because someone violated that 2,500, footage in terms of staying away from the daycare centers and all of that?
Well, first off, I haven't read the ordinance, so I'm not sure of all of the proponents. I've been briefed on some of the conditions of it. Let me say this. Ordinances are not necessarily criminal. They can be. So if somebody violates an ordinance, it might be a violation of the ordinance, but not a violation of criminal statute.